Okay, we're going again with Write Once, Read Many. Can I get that link out there as always? And we'll get to watch the speed draw again. All right. So right back into it. The part we were at was the part where I was take two indeed, Greg. So this is once again chapters 15.6 and 15.7. I am at the start of 15.6 in Victoria's narration here, talking about how Flechette is, I don't know, being, worming her way in with Perion. Vale says, take 3, why not get the most out of things? Yes, this can be take 2 and 3. And hello, Vale. So I'm hoping that the problem that crashed the other stream will not happen this time. Apparently I forgot to turn off a VPN that this computer naturally has on, so yes. So Skitter explains that yes, she's a villain, but that she's not that bad. She just wanted to recruit Perion as a win-win for herself. And then as a quote here, "Fuck! I hate it when people do that. Everything you say is a lie, including any protests or arguments over the fact that you are a liar." Classic. Vale says, I'm very likely to fall asleep at random point, but listening in otherwise. Well, that's all right. It's good to see you here anyway. So, let's see here. Flechette argues that Skitter has a reputation for being deceitful, but Skitter thinks that falls flat since Armsmaster is so messed up that he was elected for the Slaughterhouse 9. Skitter sarcastically comments on how the heroes bend the truth for convenience, and she also thinks to herself how she's omitting that 2 of her team members were also elected. Flechette agrees that it's a perk when you're doing what's right. Skitter gets triggered and tells Flechette that Armsmaster didn't get put on leave for therapy, but was actually in a bougie prison. She had to pull teeth a bit to try to reason as to why the world would get time off when nobody in the wards did, but is thrown off when Flechette says that they were all required to get therapy. Perion's like, "Psst, Flechette, wasn't that therapy actually Weld's idea?" Their synergy between these 2 lesbians is not quite there yet. 2 + 4 × 5. Flechette, liar, liar, pants for hire. Skitter, it's pants on fire, Flechette. Flechette, you would know. Oh my god, yeah. And then Greg says, everything you say is a lie, including any protests or arguments over the fact that you're a liar. Wildbow setting up Snowdrop's character 8 years in advance. Only 8? Damn, I guess that those chapters were written like 2 years ago now. Crazy. Time flies when you're having fun. Let's see here. Skitter can finally complete her argument that yes, Armsman was arrested, and people just take the hero story at face value. Flechette says Armsman put in 15 years for this city, and that Skitter has a warped perspective, which Skitter agrees that everyone has a warped perspective. Skitter finally spills the beans on Armsman, allowed the death of her and all the other villains in the way. Almost got Kid Win killed too. She tells Flechette if she doesn't believe her, the evidence is on an armband in the ceiling panel in a shelter over a toilet. Okay, Taylor. It is like really funny how specific it's like, yeah, it's in Slater Street, it's in the ceiling tile above the third stall of the women's restroom on the first floor. You know, it's one of these stories where it's like, yeah, your uncle works at Nintendo, Taylor, I'm sure. So Skitter says that she just wants to help. I'm sure she sounds very exasperated and pathetic in that moment, and mentions all of Parion's minions in their full coverage get-ups. Skitter says that she can even help them get medical attention. Parion spoke, her voice quiet. So you're asking me to choose between being loyal to a friend who's helped me, comforted me, and kept me sane these past few weeks, or selling my soul for the supposed greater good? Saying you'd be selling your soul is a bit overdramatic, I said. And then Parion does give, I don't think that Vic pulled it out here, but she's like, I'm an artist. I'm dramatic by nature. Which I couldn't skip that line. Skitter wants to let Parion come to look at her territory and see the good she's done, and confidently tells Flechette that she can escape if she wants to. She tells her that she doesn't want to be forced to call Ballistic over, because he could make a mistake like, snap, that! Flechette, in return, uses her power and pins Skitter's costume to the ground. Skitter continues their petty arguments as Atlas quietly slips in the room. He readies himself behind Parion, but Parion bottomly asks, Skitter, if we let you go, do you promise not to attack or interfere under any circumstance? Parion? Flechette asked. She sounded almost hurt. So this is when it switches from some good old Vic writing to me writing. Skitter has a conversation with the other two where it's clear Flechette wishes Parion were more on the same page as her. They have like pretty different ideas as to what's realistic in a fight against Ballistic. Flechette specifically wants to arrest him, etc. And Skitter's making faces, hoping that her costume is hiding her terrible poker face. And then at this point, Flechette's saying that if they beat Ballistic, and he'll come back with the rest of the Travel-Siders and push anyone who stays out. Then Atlas is seen. Ah! A big bug. That's what you were using to fly around when we were fighting the 9? My Flechette voice is just me. It's me but incredulous. Continued negotiation from Skitter. Threats from Flechette's. But they don't really intimidate or otherwise phase Skitter. Skitter keeps pushing the idea that it has to be Parion's call, and Flechette starts getting antsy with all this consent talk. Parion turns down the offer of like going to Skitter's territory initially. But then 2 + 4 × 5 says, me but incredulous. Ah, yes, because you're usually so incredibly credulous. Yeah. See, it's not that different. It's pretty much just the same voice. Let's see here. Let's see. I think I kind of got lost in what exact offer Parion was turning down, but she's generally turning Skitter down right now. She's like, no, I can't be a villain. I'll be stuck with it. And then Skitter is like, what if it was a short-term partnership? What if we just hooked up once, Parion? And then Perion's like, nah, the rep will stick. We can't hook up just once. They'll know. They'll be like, you're a villain. They'll mark me with a big red V. And then Skitter gets out her cell phone. Flechette's flipping out. She's like, she's doing a thing. She's doing it. And then Skitter bug moves the phone to facilitate it. She uses spider webs and bugs to push stuff around. She's always doing little things like this. It's just her natural behavior. Codes are used. They find Sierra's contact. They, do the green light for safety thing. Skitter is having Sierra use Charlotte and a small group of other minions to take the big cash money wads to Lord Street to give to Perion as a bribe to leave the city. Perion wants to know why. And basically, Skitter feels guilty about all the things that happened when they fought the Nine. Flechette says, that's a lot of money. Skitter says that her banker is Name the Number Man. So, try and put 2 and 2 together here. Skitter convinces Flechette to go with Perion to defend her on the way back. She's like, I know what you're doing. It's all a trick to get me to leave you so I can escape. And she's like, nah, I could escape you this whole time. I'm not even worried. And then, we got the armband from the Leviathan fight being mentioned again. She reminds her Slater Street shelter bathroom above the ceiling panel. I'm not just making stuff up on the top of my head. This is real. It's like the least trustworthy person you know. I actually found some ancient artifacts. They're very valuable, but you have to pay me before you can see them. Skitter wishes them well, even though they'll be fighting on different sides, and Flechette seems to balk at this a bit. After they leave, Ballistic is still breaking everything. You can hear him in the distance, and there's a brief mention that Flechette's going back to New York, which, this will end her teenage dream of fighting serial killers and making out with your girlfriend. Skitter unpins herself from the ground, probably very unceremoniously, and she's kind of in some sort of pinned bug collection style imagery here on my mind. I'm like, oh yeah, it's just like if she were a beetle specimen that was all desiccated and dried out in a display case. But she has more pressing concerns than visual metaphors or imagery. She's worried about, things like the PRT maybe realizing she told Flechette about all that arms man stuff, about him breaking the truce, and they'll get all pissed. She needs to get surgery. She's hoping that Ballistic can vent some of his energy, some of his anger too, while he's breaking all these things. And then she's got to arrange things with Trickster and Genesis for the mayor mission, where she's pretty sure she'll get assassinated on. So she's trying to be as cool as a cucumber, but she's only as cool as, room temperature. She's got some anxiety, but not a lot of anxiety. Final chapter thoughts. It's a good one. I really like this conversation. There's a lot of good back and forth. It just flows really well in the audiobook too. I'm looking forward to a lot of these chapters in the newer audiobooks, like the full cast one. Oh, and I know this is like a total side tangent, but the full cast audiobook for Worm, they have started to release full cast audiobook chapters for Pale, and the prologue chapter is out, and so is 1.1. So there's now going to be really solid audiobook material for that slowly rolling out, 2 + 4 × 5 says, I like how Atlas rolled a natural 20 on his stealth check. Yeah, he sneaks in pretty far. This is a very funny scene to me, the image we got for the art. And I don't have a second art for today, but I will be showing an old art briefly. So we get a little moment. But yes, I really like this image. Atlas looks like a real fucking freak here. I love it. Let's see. But, I don't have a lot of specific thoughts beyond the ones I've talked about. Moving on to 15.7. So Skitter's trying to figure out who she can trust to treat her super injury. The guy she would normally call to get a medic is probably maybe trying to kill her right now. So she feels all kinds of bad feelings, scraping, skin crawling, you know the kinds. She has a wound that's not possible in real life, and yet somehow your horrible brain can imagine the feeling anyway. So she calls Tattletale. She says she has no serious injuries. There's no problems. I was just stabbed by a flechette, but it's not a big deal. Being stabbed is serious. It's not too bad. Can you lend me your medic? Skitter is starting to fly home now, so Tattletale thinks her people will get to her lair before she does. So the lovely Brooks and the ever-charming Bryce will be the ones to greet her. Skitter worries for a moment about being feared and loved, as she always does. She needs to be feared and loved. Sierra's there to see Bryce, and talk to him finally. Brooks tells us about the injury, and Skitter realizes that Flechette probably did this on purpose to give her the kind of injury that she needs to go to a hospital for. How dare she? So that they could, later catch her at the hospital. Brooks needs some surgery stuff, stuff that sounds gnarly to use on a conscious person, such as the conscious person they'll be committing surgery upon. But this territory has a dentist, and that dentist has just recently gotten supplies. So they have blood, suction, and for power tools, they got rotary grinders and stuff. They got all the things they need for this wonderful emergency surgery, which they do in Skitter's office, of course. Where else would you do it? So Skitter rates the pain of this at about a 3, but a 7 when she moves it. And then I pulled out these quotes, because how could I not? I'm surprised you are not passed out already. Do you have a high pain tolerance? I wouldn't have thought so, but maybe. Or maybe the way it bonded kept it from damaging or exposing the nerve endings? Taylor's always getting thrown around by dragons and god lizards and all sorts, and she's just I don't know, maybe I'm good at taking a hit. Maybe all my nerve endings got fried when Bakuda hit me with that crazy bomb. I don't know. Brooks gets some pushback from Skitter and Sierra when he tries to walk all over Sierra, calling her ginger girl, etc. Vale says, Taylor gets a hangnail, low pain tolerance, AU. My God. So after Sierra leaves with Brooks for a second, then Skitter's left with Bryce. And, he's kind of a little shit. I'm not a big Bryce fan. I kind of think it's funny when bad stuff happens to Bryce. But there are some orphan kids here too. And instead of talking to anyone, Skitter's way too Sigma for that. She uses her power to check on the area and construction. She's just always on her grind set. She doesn't allow things such as orphans to get on her mind. There are lots of good details throughout this section. I kind of skimmed past it, but she checks on all her construction thoughts, or on all her construction stuff, and she she's always thinking lots of specific thoughts about how, like, the way things work, and, like, how she thinks people are gonna think, and, like, you know, all that kind of stuff. She's always thinking her brainy brain thoughts. Skitter's a fun point of view character for the way I like to have the story present information. I don't want every story to be like this, but I'm glad that this one is. Let's see here. Where was I? So, oh yeah, Skitter thinks about how she's got 184 people, which later on in the conversation she mentions is up to 190 when Charlotte and the other 5 get back. Skitter sends the oldest child, Guy, to go tell some of her minions not to drink on the job, which she noticed in a sewer, and then to come back. Bryce starts to get mouthy. He's like, "Oh, you sending little kids to do your bidding now, are ya?" And he's got that voice for some reason. So Skitter does a big mental sigh. Why do all these little shits have to challenge me? She thinks to herself. So she kind of gives the everyone does their part speech like Sierra would give if she was in the room. And Bryce gets mouthier, so Sierra runs in and yells at him to intervene. And she's probably not wanting one of these, let's see here. One of these must have lost my sentence somewhere along the way, but clearly she doesn't want him to get owned. Oh yeah, no, I remember what I was saying. She doesn't want one of these to happen, like this on-screen image of Barker getting owned. That's what I was referring to. Boop. So Sierra tells him that, he was with the merchants, so just shut the fuck up. He's saying things were good when he was, back then when he was with them, not mentioning his dead girlfriend, etc. Skitter brings up the most of the merchants being dead, and, to some pretty grim fates, no less. But Bryce is totally unfazed and convinced he would have survived. Normally I cut down the quotes a lot of the times to just what's in the character speech, but on this one I left the little italicized cocky. Just because I thought it was so funny, because this kind of annoys Skitter to the point where she says, "Then you'd be starving to death, dirty, probably sick, going through withdrawal maybe. Don't know what you were taking with them." Which totally cows Bryce. It's a beautiful moment. She's like, "Fuck you, kid." And then Sierra still thinks Bryce is being way too flippant. He is blaming all capes. But she grabs him, and then Sierra does, and when he knocks her hand away, then she pokes him in the chest with her finger, and then gets in close, and a bit too loudly. She's talking about some of Skitter's more violent exploits, and Skitter seems to feel uncomfortable with the way that Sierra views her. Do you guys know what Sierra's been saying behind my back? This is crazy. She sends Bryce to help Brooks upstairs, and then she talks to Sierra for a minute, and she says to give Bryce some space, and Sierra does be sad. And then she has Sierra get her laptop and surveillance gear. So Skitter gets herself set up in her main lair chair. The chair she used when she drank the bitter tea and tortured some now dead merchants with piles of bugs and fire. Brooks talks about being used to some pretty bad conditions. But Skitter insists on not going under. She takes some lidocaine, local dental aesthetic, and then also some over-the-counter painkillers like ibuprofen probably, but I forget if they say exactly. Unimportant. She is undergoing this ridiculously painful surgery with, not the best painkillers, while directing her swarm clones to talk to various workers. And while she masters a lot of things, she is not able to master the multi-swarm clone conversation technique yet. So she only has one conversation at a time. What a loser. Movements are tracked around places. Charlotte arrives. Skitter lets her bugs and power remove herself from her body. She's trying to vibe in her bugs while she is going through this horrible surgery experience. Arian has come with has come with Charlotte, and Skitter focuses her attention on that conversation. It's not enough money, but she's shocked that it was real, but she doesn't want to ask for more, but also she couldn't make the big cash money wads that she needs if she were to go legit. Perian's not having a good time here. And despite not really even being next to Perian, Skitter initiates a walk and talk scene. She's like, take a walk with me. And she's leading Perian to, she's like a Disney Imagineer where she's creating the park in such a way that, you're looking around and you're seeing all the best sights as you walk down the main streets. You being Perian, your vision is filled with only the best working, reconstructing society, with only the happiest people, So she's got a good mix of real and seeing the sights that she wants to see. It could be argued that anywhere Perian went in her territory would be good, but I have to imagine that Skitter's walking her down only the best streets and alleys. Anyway, boop, boop, boop. Where are we? Perian feels guilty when seeing all that Skitter's been able to do here. And she frames it as hating Skitter for making her feel like she should have done more. And Skitter says more or less that she did all she could. So she's comforting Perian, but painful surgery intensifies. I know Flechette says I'm warped, but society, man, ever think of that, doll girl? Skitter's a little bit more articulate than that, but I don't think that she necessarily made her point in a way that was super compelling to Perian. I think she it's an understandable place she's coming from, but I think she came on a little strong. Let me look at the exact wording of that section. I know I flanderized it a bit. Let's see. Yeah, she's trying to establish her theory that capes overturned the game. They really changed the status quo and caused a lot of upheaval. And Skitter wants to address the coming era with a new status quo that's more like an old status quo. Her plan can be simplified kind of to feudalism. She just wants good capes to rule over areas instead of bad capes. I'm sure I'm wrong in some way, but it seems like rule by samurai is her plan. But she's like, I want a network of good samurai. Some sort of hero organization that protects people. Some sort of protectorate. Shit. But it's under my rule. Shit. Skitter offers the biggest gamble so far, going back to just trying to get Perian to join their team, but this time as a stealth 7th Undersider. You thought there were 6, but there were more. And Skitter will have to ask forgiveness, not permission, with Coil on this one. So there's all sorts of hesitations and refutations. But the media, but Flechette. But in the end, Perion's going to think on it. I hate you, Perion said. Brooks finishes his surgery in time with this. I can live with that. Your standard Taylor back and forth. So yeah, this chapter, what a chapter. I love this one. Greg says, good authoritarians are preferable to bad authoritarians, ... But that's a low bar to clear. So, yes, indeed. And then, let's see here. Boop, 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 boop. Yeah, final chapter thoughts. I don't know. This one's just really good. I wish I kind of did speed to get this chapter done, and then once the thing was delayed, I was like, I have no energy to revise this. So that did happen. I really love this chapter. These two chapters with all the convincing of Perion. You'll see this later in an interlude described by Flechette, and she's just flipping the fuck out. She's like, it's like she just gets in your head, and because she's thinking that Perion's been totally turned already. I don't know. Yeah, I think these conversations are excellent. The scene with Sierra, warning Bryce, I love that. And then, let's see, what else? Really great moments. The fact that she undergoes the surgery while doing the thing, it's just Taylor being Taylor. This chapter feels like it's her solving problems, but it's just reveling in how powerful she is in a way. It's ridiculous. Anyway, she doesn't need to be in a fight to show off her power in this way. She seems much more powerful here while she's doing all her ministrations than she does, fighting the other two and getting poked to the ground. But I guess moving on to how these affect the arc. 2 more bridge chapters. They sort of are, the chapters in the story, or in this arc, are kind of intro, broken up by interlude. One fight, break up by interlude. Then there's this mission 2, broken up by interlude. Then a mission 3. It really makes it feel like a lot of different, she's accomplishing a lot of different small tasks, whereas a lot of previous arcs have been about one big task. So we're already seeing her second of 3 major fights in this arc. And it's pretty cool. I like it. Characters. Well, the big 3 in these chapters are, of course, Taylor, Perion, who I guess I could call Saba, and Flechette or Lily. And I mean, Lily is losing her goddamn mind this whole time. She's just how are you even listening right now? What is happening? Why? And Perion's or Saba's but maybe all this money. And although she really has long-term negative feelings about the idea of being a villain. So it's not like super intriguing. It's more like just, I guess I have to. So she goes through a whole hemming and hawing, refusing the call, some sort of hero's journey step, Parian's journey. And then, Skitter always being like, I have a terrible charisma stat, wink. I'm really bad at talking to people, wink. I never get them to come over to my side, wink combo. And, she's just, her own self-assessment is so incorrect. It's incredible. But she is incredibly good at convincing everyone of things and to join her side. She doesn't always get like the results she wants, but her hit rate's pretty good, actually. Because she says some stuff in that conversation that, like, I know it's actually true, but she sounds crazy. It's about the stall in Slater's bathroom. Yeah. So, I mean, those are the big three. I mostly talked about them as we went. Other characters, Bryce, total shit. Orphans, much more well-behaved than Bryce. Bryce could learn a thing or two from some orphans. Brooks, he's like the adult Bryce, little shit. I mean, not like in terms of what they do, just in terms of amount of shithead vibes that I get from them. Like that overrides kind of their specific traits. Then, who else we got? We got Sierra, always a crowd favorite, and by crowd I mean me. I'm the crowd here. We love Sierra on this stream. Charlotte, same thing. Not as good as Sierra, but Charlotte's still pretty cool. Sierra's fear of Taylor was highlighted several times. Taylor she doesn't say she feels bad, but to me it's pretty clear that she feels bad. Let's see. Then, I think that's it. I don't really think we talk about other people. One orphan is named Guy. I guess the nebulous idea of all the people in Skitter's territory. When you rack them all up, she's got 190 minions, some of whom are orphans. And I know all you Final Fantasy 3 fans are saying to yourselves, how do all these orphans keep getting all these jobs? Well, Taylor runs a better society than Final Fantasy. But moving on to the powers, knowledge, and world building, we learned a little bit about how Flechette's power bonds things to things, because it the thing she was holding was in like all space-time coordinates, all space coordinates in all universes right there, and she, once she released it, it just was in the normal world again, so it was like totally embedded within Taylor. It's bad news. You don't want to get poked by Flechette. Let's see here. Other powers, knowledge stuff. I don't know. World building, lots and lots of stuff about Taylor's territory. It was great. All those details are great. But to get those details, please read chapter 15.7. And yeah, I think I can move on to the audience participation. If you had joined the war, if Taylor had joined the wards instead of becoming a villain, do you think she would have been as hero-pilled as Flechette? Explain your answer. And the The answers here are from 2 plus 4 times 5. No, because Taylor sucks at following orders, so she'd probably be mediocre when chained to the role of an actual lawful authority. That makes sense. I'm not sure I agree, because I feel like under certain circumstances she could have been less. Like, if she hadn't become a villain and she hadn't started opposed to the heroes, I think I can imagine a very Splinter universe where Taylor's all like superhero pilled, like not necessarily from the wards, like the way I see it is like if she, I don't know, somehow joined a team like New Wave. I know they're a family, so she wouldn't join them, but just imagine she did. I could imagine her getting like crazy hero pilled and like believing in the leader of her team specifically rather than a nebulous authority figure like from a PRT thing. So yeah, that's kind of how I imagine her going down that road, whereas the ward's not as much. But moving on to Greg's answer, Greg said, if she was on a really great and supportive wards team, maybe. She would still be going in with all the baggage from an extensive campaign of bullying, during which authority figures let her down time and time again. Rebuilding trust that the system won't fuck her over would be a long and fragile process, easily shattered if she learns anything compromising about the Protectorate. Thank goodness their morals are above reproach, so that would never happen. Exactly. A chef's kiss. Vale says, there's nothing quite so focused as Taylor with an objective that she considers to be the right thing to do. The wards would quickly figure out how to frame her work in a way that makes it the right thing to do, and she would be all in. That's kind of how I felt, like, depending on the setup, like, there's a way to mentally judo her into it. And I think it would be easier on a non-wards hero team, but my question was specifically about the wards. So, like, and I only thought about that New Wave thing as I was reading and responding to the first answer here. But to continue Vale's answer here, we've got, they'd reframe things, she'd be all in, or they will get on her wrong, their bullies side, and she would dismantle them over the course of 3 or 4 event-filled months, leading to the eventual demise of everyone involved. Edit. Either way, she is not hero-pilled. Hero is just a label. Taylor has no interest in labels. I think to me, she has a strong interest in labels at the start and loses it during the story. Like, that's part of why I think she could get hero-pilled. Greg says, regarding New Wave, she could always marry into the family. Yeah, oh my god. We don't even need Vic here. And we got the shipping going. Oh boy. Okay, well, let's see. The next chapter is the Alexandria chapter. So until I think of a better audience participation question, the joke audience participation question will have to do 15.z Alexandria, comma, did nothing wrong? Question mark? Three question marks. There we go. So, yes, probably should have started playing my outro music a little earlier, but we'll start midway. We're going in hot. I think this is an especially good one to be able to do that with. I think this song is much more like usable and malleable, and the fact that it's only 2.5 minutes, it's like kind of a perfect length for the stream. I'm a big fan. But Vale says, thanks as always. And I thank you as always, Vale. Thank all 3 of you for being here, because it's very it's a lot more rewarding when there are people talking back. Greg says cheers. 2 + 4 × 5 says good stream. As I was saying a moment ago, Monarch is the song by ScarlettXOX, our friend. You can find her at twitch.tv /Scarlett_Rogue. Vale says, I don't care for the labels, but rewarding is fine, I guess. I'm above labels. The Discord server link can be found in the stream description as well as the YouTube channel description. The author of the work being discussed can be supported on Patreon at patreon.com/wildbow. The full text of the work is available for free online at parahumans.wordpress.com. And there is also a fan-made audiobook of the entire work at audioworm.rain-online. And this is what I do when I overshoot